Hi, this is Karina from the Royalty Coach. I am here with Nancy Mitchell. She is an amazing person. She has been publishing for just a little while, not a ton. And she has a best-selling book. And so we need to know all about it. So we're going to ask her some questions. So before we jump into the questions, Nancy, just give us like a little snippet about who you are. Just how did you kind of come about, the publishing journey?
Sure. Well, I actually kind of stumbled into it. I wasn't looking for it, but I was bored one day and I was kind of curious on how Amazon worked. I couldn't figure out how regular folks were selling on Amazon, and I didn't want to sell products on Amazon. I had had a retail business before, and I didn't want that. I was just curious on how it worked. And then as I was looking at that, I saw the publishing opportunity. And I thought, I could do this. That's kind of how it started.
That's amazing. So that's probably, how a lot of people actually start. They get curious. They kind of maybe look for online businesses and they just stumble. It's how it happened for me. I stumbled across that. Before you and I started working together through this particular program, what was your publishing journey like?
Well, of course, I was excited for the opportunity. But as I was getting into it, I saw it wasn't really set up for verbal interaction. I would have questions and no real good way of getting the answer. And so I became a little frustrated with that. So I would say that my belief that I could do this probably waned a little bit in that time.
Okay. So it was the lack of interaction, the sort of like the one-on-one, like ability to just get your questions answered. Like, what was the structure when you entered this particular?
Well, where I entered, there was you could not just verbally ask a question. You had to type out your question days in advance.
Okay.
And, I'm going to tell my age here a little bit, but I know when we started doing emails and we started doing texting, when that became a thing, I was warned that they're not going to have, whoever's on the other end of that's not going to have the context. They're not going to hear your voice. They don't know the inflection. You got to be real careful that what you're typing in is really what you're meaning to type in. Well, it was the same thing with this. You had to figure out, how can I ask this question by just typing in a question? How are they really going to understand? And a lot of times they didn't.
Right.
So then, but you still had to just type it in. So there was no personal coaching. There was no back and forth verbally.
That's a huge waste of time, like for the student, for the client, right? Like I find that the way people learn, right? There's different modalities of how people learn. So some people are super visual, some people are super like verbal. I've had, clients, and maybe you can relate as far as like sometimes when you're getting responses. I used to have clients that would write me like a novel in an email. And as a coach, that's an extremely difficult thing to do when you're not when you don't use text, right? As a means of communication, I'm very verbal. And I found that a lot of people struggled when they're not receiving the responses in the way they need, right, to receive the response. So it takes such a long time to actually get your question answered. Why did you request to work with me? Because we've had other coaches. Why me?
I wanted to succeed. That was basically it. I wanted to succeed.
So
I didn't want to just finish my book. I wanted my book to be a winner.
Okay.
I actually had heard I heard you do some training, and I thought, I want her. I could tell that you knew what to do, you knew what not to do, and you could help a person stay on track.
Okay.
And that was a big part of it. And I saw that I sat in on some of your trainings and I saw that.
Keeping on track. That's something that I hear a lot, because I find that with a lot of courses, like there is so much information, like people just go into information overload, right? And I find, and I don't know, maybe you can relate to this, but I find that a lot of people just, they get overwhelmed. They look at the course, even though it's laid out beautifully, it's lesson by lesson, and you do your lessons and you're like, getting through the material, but you get overwhelmed. And sometimes it's the smallest thing that becomes the biggest stopper for people. And like the accountability, right? How do you think that impacted the results that you have?
I think it was very important. The accountability is what keeps you on track, right? Which sometimes I did. I got off onto something thinking this is what I need to do, and without having that interaction with you, you don't realize, oh, you're going down the wrong path.
Yeah.
Come back over here, and this is why, this is what we're doing, this is what you need to do. You're just really good at that.
That's awesome. That's good to know. Okay, you're doing super well. Okay, you're making 14,000 a month right now with your book. The book is a bestseller. Like, you're killing it on Amazon. If you were to kind of think through the journey of just your book creation process, which part of that would you say you struggled with the most?
For mine, but because it had so many images that I struggled with finding the best contractor for that.
Okay.
Subcontractor, graphics person. I don't know that I always did the best job on that. And
So you mean the poses, because your book is on,
yes, the poses.
it's got a lot of poses. Okay, so that was the biggest struggle, just finding the right person.
Finding someone that, because I went through, you have to test them and see, what they have. So I went through a few, and then I'm not even sure that I made the right decision in the end. Now, I do have a successful book, so I can't say that I didn't. But
done something right.
I think it's some of those things that I struggled with. You have it right there in front of you, but
Sure.
then a part of it is you've got to go out and get some subcontractors to do things you can't do.
Yeah.
So that, I would say that's probably what I struggled with more.
Okay. So because I think this is a pretty important thing. People sometimes think, well, I'm going to take a course and then everything's going to be provided for me. Like they will tell me, they will give me the people, and it's not like that. You do have to, in most courses, you learn the material and then you go to wherever, right? If you need a freelancer or someone, and you still have to go through that process of hiring them and making sure getting, you need to get the right person that can do the right thing, because the book has to be quality. Like, at the end of the day, I don't know that there are many bestsellers out there unless they really are done by famous people, where the book is like not good quality. And you can see that through the reviews, right? I've read books that are supposed to be X famous person, and the reviews on that book are awful. So even the famous people don't get exempt from bad reviews. So at the end of the day, you've created a product. You've created an amazing book, great cover, great material, super good content. You took your time, you figured out, you've gotten the illustrator, the person who can design the poses. Like, you did all the work, right? It's all the little nitty gritty stuff that you have to do because the book has to be well done. And that's one of the things that I love about your book, because it's not just a, AI generated content, you know what I mean? That you just kind of slap together and call it a day, and whatever, you throw it on Amazon and you hope for some good reviews, and at the end of the day, like, you're not gonna get any. So I love that about your book. So that's interesting that you found that piece tougher which
I did, but now that listening to what you say, I'm thinking back and I'm thinking, you mentioned reviews. I did not have any reviews remarking that they didn't care for my images or poses. I think it's probably just me trying to be
yeah.
very careful and be very picky.
Yeah. Okay. Last and final question. Okay. So for anyone that's watching, right? They've heard this, they've heard your whole essentially testimonial, but they're still sitting on the sidelines. They're like, I don't know if I want to spend that money. Like, I don't really know this girl. Like, I get it. She sounds super cool. She sounds pretty legit, but I don't know. Do I actually jump in or do I not jump in? Like, what would you say to them that might help them decide to jump in?
I think what I would say is you have a huge opportunity right in front of you, but you're not going to be alone. You'll have the tools you need, you'll have the personal input that you need and partnership in a way to be successful. You will have everything that you need. Then it will be up to you to go through the steps, but you'll have what you need. And I mean, I'm living proof of that. So I think that's what I would say. Jump in. The water's
Jump
warm.
in. Jump in. We're saying jump in.
Yeah,
Don't even
yeah,
think about it. Yeah, I think it
yeah.
makes a huge difference. When I think about my own journey, honestly, it took me 4 years to make money. I wasn't like you. I wasn't the 6 month publish, make 10 grand a month and keep going. I wasn't that person. I was the person that took 4 years because it's taken me almost that long to perfect the launch strategy. So I've had a ton of failed books, ton. And then the moment I realized, I know it's going to make this work. And I started sharing. And actually, it was first my students who were getting the results and I wasn't, because I wasn't publishing. I stopped it for a while because I was focused on just coaching.
Hmm.
And then I thought, this is so not smart. Like, they're making money. I'm not making a penny. I need to start this. And then I started, and it's like bonkers. Every single book is a bestseller. And I'm like, okay, so they've proved, I've proved, everybody's proven this. We're good. This is a legit method. So
Hmm.
thank you. Thank you
Yeah,
for doing this. Thank you for using my method. Thank you for not giving up. I know you've gone through some stuff. I appreciate you more than you know. And thank you for your time.
sure. You've made a difference in my life.
That's awesome.